Hello and welcome to Paydirt TV. I'm Dominic Piper. Joining us today is Kevin McNeil, CEO of EQ Resources Limited. Kevin, thanks for joining us.
Morning, Dominic.
Kevin, the company started mining on its Mount Carbine tungsten project in North Queensland last year. You're doing about 9,000 tonnes per month mining, but your ambitions are much greater than that, aren't they?
Yeah, we've been actually running somewhere closer to about 15,000 over the last few months. We've been ramping it up over the commissioning period, and then I'm pretty sure in the next couple of months, as part of the fundraising, we've secured some funding to bring it up to 60 ton an hour. The greater expansion plans is like processing the waste dump at 1 million tons a year of feed, and using the XRT sorters, we kind of whittle that down to about 350 tons of feed. So that requires probably a portion of an open pit and going underground, both.
So what are the current operations at the moment then? You're just mining from the open pit and waste dumps, are you?
We're mining from the tailings, and we just started recently on the first waste dump. We're trial pitting the waste dump. There was several pits in it prior, and there's an indicated resource on the 12 million ton waste dump. And we're currently drilling the under the open pit. So it's a two-phase program for feasibility. One, we look at the waste rock dump and get that going in earnest. And then secondly, we look at the open pit underground and optimize on those two resources.
You mentioned there's feasibility study work underway for that. What sort of indications do you need? What is a kickstart that'll see you move into full open pit and underground mining?
Yeah, I guess the drilling, we're doing quite a large-scale drill program right now just to confirm. It was fairly tight, the drilling. We're putting it down to about a 50 by 50 meter centers initially here on the under the open pit. And there's a 0.5 kilometer decline that they had done in the past, Dominique. And so we're going to look at reopening that decline, and where some of the veins cross it, drill them off in great detail.
Kevin, you mentioned earlier that you'd raised $6.5 million in March to fund your exploration and expansion programs and indeed feasibility work. How far will that funding take you towards a final investment decision on expansion of the project?
The waste rock dump is quite a simplistic feasibility. We're already mining on it, semi-production on it, and it's really a document to allow us to raise financing for expanding the crushing and earth moving kit in particular. And then secondly, look at the resource development like we had talked about, doing the exploration in particular. So yeah, we expect that to be kicking off sometime around third quarter to have the feasibility study completed on the waste rock dump, and then it'll be ongoing into the underground and open pit in particular.
Mount Carbine is a historical producer dating back to the start of the 20th century. But the Australian tungsten industry hasn't exactly been successful in more recent times. We've seen a couple of companies start up and then quickly close down again. Do you think EQ can do things differently this time? And if so, how are you doing things differently?
We have a partner, first of all, in Cronimet, and Cronimet's a large German trading house, one of the largest stainless steel scrap dealers in the world, and they're trade in tungsten. I was an MD for their African division for a number of years. So we're fairly used to a development plan here. And having a trading partner like that, you can't underestimate what that means to you to be able to place it, have all the experience placing. Because the tungsten market is more about relationships and long-term supply and the quality of the product that you deliver to them. So I think we're in a fairly good position to deliver on what we're pitching. We're going through all the right steps. The resource looks solid to me.
What is the market looking like? Is the supply-demand fundamentals in favour of miners at the moment?
I think compared to tungsten is a critical metal listed on in most countries as a critical metal because 80% of the supply comes out of China. So people are afraid, and supply seems to be tightening. And supply goes with the economy directly proportional to the amount of steel that's produced. Basically, it's an additive to steel to harden it. Drill bits, auto manufacturing, drill bits for boring out motors. So it's really a constant, unlike some other rare earths that you could flood the market with a cubic meter of the stuff, right? So we've been producing here sort of a container load a month type thing, and putting it out to different customers in particular. So we've seen the demand, and our guys trading, the ChroniMet guys, saying that everybody is looking for tungsten right now, on a global scale, that everybody is out there looking.
Is there a battery minerals element to the tungsten market? We've seen many other commodities that we didn't expect to see dragged into that battery minerals thematic. Is that the same for tungsten?
I think sometimes battery metals and critical metals get mixed into the same basket, maybe. But I think being a critical metal is certainly an advantage to us. But it really isn't a battery metal. Tungsten is like I said before, China makes 80 or produces 80% of it, and I think they're just tightening the supply up all the time for their own purposes, their own needs. So yeah, I think it really is a supply demand on tungsten in particular.
You mentioned earlier the plans for the next 6 months. What could investors expect to see as some buying opportunities for EQ Resources in the next 6 months or so?
Yeah, I think there's going to be a heavy news flow. Obviously, we're drilling. We're going to be drilling continually, I think, over the next 6 months. We're going to have feasibility news coming. I think we are looking at other developments as well. So I think there's a fairly heavy news flow that should be pretty exciting. And as you go into these things, we're adding value all the time. Every time we tighten up the reserves and put another drill hole in, obviously, and you get more and more confidence in the value of what the project can deliver. So I think for investors, it's a good buy.
Kevin, best of luck. Thanks very much. I'm sure with all that news flow, we'll be able to speak again in the next few months. Tungsten really is a sort of forgotten commodity here in Australia, so we hope that EQ is at the heart of any renaissance we see over the next year or so. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Dominique. Appreciate the interview.